energy with the Los Angeles Chargers this season. Now he gets to take on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I hate to say it, since I'm a Chiefs fan. Oh, speaking of Chiefs, it's Patrick Mahomes.
There it is.
Really right looking forward to that Chargers-Ravens game. But Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in Washington to take on Taylor Heineke and the Washington FT. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. I'm Kimmy Checks, holding it down with me. Adam Rank right here in the middle, and Michael F. Florio. You guys, we're here to get everybody's lineups ready for Week 6. Can we believe it is already Week 6? I feel like the season's just like flown by already.
No. It is weird that it is Week 6 already. Like, I feel like we fly straight through to Halloween, and then it just grinds to a halt.
And then it really?
Yeah, then you're like, this season's never going to end.
All summer we get excited for it. We're like, oh, we can't wait for Week 1, and then you blink and it's Halloween, like Rank said. So it's Week 6 already. It's flown by.
I'm trying to figure out how to make a Harley Quinn outfit for my daughter. So if anybody knows how to do that, I would appreciate it. So
okay.
Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, don't forget to tweet us your questions at NFL Fantasy, or you can tweet Rank
about
with Halloween ideas
costumes
for his kids. However, we are live in our YouTube comment section answering all your questions. Matt Okada getting you set for kickoff. He's here.
That makes sense.
All right, let's take a look at our notable actives and inactives. Bad news if you thought CMC was going to get back into your lineup. That's not going to happen. He's out. However, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Allen Robinson, Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, they are all playing. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey out. Big ones. All right, here are late game injuries to monitor. Chase Edmonds is expected to play, as well as Kareem Hunt on the other side of the ball. That's a good thing because Nick Chubb is out. So fantasy managers very excited about Kareem Hunt. Melvin Gordon, Zeke, Damian Harris, all expected to play. Chris Carson and Juju both out. All right, so I mentioned it when I took a look at those injury boards. With Nick Chubb out, what does that mean for Kareem Hunt fantasy managers? They're just getting all the points now, right?
Well, I mean, Kareem Hunt was already scoring a ton of fantasy points as it was, so I don't think that's that big of an issue. I think for somebody like D'Ernest Johnson, he's going to end up playing a little bit of a role, and I think that if you're without a running back, he's somebody to actually look at on your waiver wire.
Yeah, completely agree. I have Kareem Hunt ranked as an RB1 now. I think you were starting him whether Chubb plays or not, but he gets a boost. I think Johnson and Felton, both the backup running backs there, are worth a flyer. I like Johnson as well, but it could be Felton, so I think in a deeper league, too, he's worth taking a shot on.
That's like me in my 16-team league,
there
where I
go.
scour the waiver wire and there's nobody there. But, hey, maybe I can pick him up. On the other side of the ball, though, taking on the red-hot Cardinals, the only undefeated team in the NFL. However, they'll be without their head coach. Cliff Kingsbury tested positive for COVID-19, so the main play caller will no longer be there. Do you think this impacts the Cardinals in a negative way?
I can't remember a situation similar to this where the head coach is out.
Right?
It's
Was it kind of like last season with the Browns?
Such a big thing.
Did that happen?
Did it?
Did it?
I think so.
We've seen it for like extended periods of times a coach will miss, but not just like a one-week thing. I haven't changed any of the Cardinals in my rankings or anything like that. So I don't think, maybe it will, but I don't think we can quantify it.
It seems weird that they can't just do it from home. Like everybody else gets to work from home.
He could call plays from home. Let him zoom in.
Like he's got that sick living room.
I know. We
saw in the draft a couple of years ago. Like, why can't he just sit there and be like, yeah, I'm going to call it? I mean, I guess there's an
I guess because he would want to do that every week then. I mean,
know. Well,
it's a pretty nice living room.
That's what I wanted to do every week, and here I am.
Well, a big story here is that we're not worried about any of the offensive players for the Cardinals in terms of fantasy and just their production this week with no Cliff Kingsbury.
No, I think we're fine. I think that there was some overreaction to a lot of things. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see if Mike Gesicki was going to get into the end zone there. But, no, I think we're okay. I think we'll be fine.
All right. Christian McCaffrey has been placed on IR. People constantly are eager to get him back in the lineup. He said he was good to go, but then the Panthers were like, no, maybe not yet. So Chuba Hubbard is still there. With Christian McCaffrey missing extended time now for the second season in a row, is this time for people to start trading CMC?
What were you saying of it?
I don't think so. I would, if anything, I would trade for him right now rather than trade him away. I know it's going to stink. We've already been without him for a few weeks, and now we got to go a couple more until he's back in our fantasy lineups. But if you have a winning record right now and the person that has Christian McCaffrey is freaking out, I say try to trade for him because if he is healthy come the playoffs, that's what matters, and he's still the best player in fantasy football.
Yeah, in my league that I play with my friends from Chicago, I picked up Chuba Hubbard, and I offered the guy who has CMC. I said, I will give you Jonathan Taylor. This was last week.
Okay.
He's like, you're an idiot. No. And I'm like, okay. But now he wants to make a deal. I'm like, well, the price has dropped there, pal. Like, you're not getting Jonathan Taylor. I will give you Myles Gaskin maybe, but I'm not giving. No, like you missed that deal. But I agree. Like I would try to scoop him up. Like you're dealing from a position of strength, especially if you have Chuba Hubbard, because Chuba only helps me out. Like I'm going to keep him for 3 weeks. Then this is fine. Like,
right.
But if you're somebody who has CMC, you're missing out on all this production. And you should probably try to move him to me.
Probably starting to freak out a little bit if you have.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit. I think we'll have a lot of off-season conversations on, with 2 seasons back-to-back injuries, will Christian McCaffrey be the
you're going to draft
overall?
him in the 3rd round next year, and he's not going to get hurt, and it's going to be amazing. Who's just scored, by the way? Did Waddle score again?
Reminder that there is a London game happening. It kicked off at 6:30 a.m. here in Los Angeles, so we have it on the screen if you see us ever looking over. That is Trevor Lawrence and the Jags
that one too.
versus the Miami Dolphins. All right, gentlemen, the Seahawks place Russell Wilson on IR, so that means Geno Smith will step into the quarterback position. How do we think that has implications for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, Rank?
Well, I think Tyler Lockett was, I know that he was the most targeted receiver when Geno took over last week. And I know that Florio thinks that he's garbage, but I really still, no, I'm just teasing. He never said that. We have production meetings, we were teasing. I like both of these receivers still. I think the matchup is advantageous because both of these secondaries are not playing very well. And I do think that Geno's a capable enough quarterback to get the ball into the hands of his best receivers. So I like both of these guys, and I also like Alex Collins.
What about you, Florio? Where are they falling in your rankings, or are they falling at all?
They did fall a little bit because I think both of these two are receivers that rely on the deep ball. That's what makes them so great. And Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is the best deep ball thrower outside of maybe Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. So I think the loss there does hurt. I think they'll see enough volume where you start them. But, like, typically I have them both, top 15. Now it's a little bit more like DK is in the top 20. Tyler Lockett's just outside of it.
I can't wait for Geno Smith to be electric, and then these guys continue to be must-starts.
Yeah, I kind of want to pick up Geno Smith in a couple of spots.
Let's do it.
Let's go YOLO.
Let's go YOLO. It's NFL fantasy football. That's fantasy football is YOLO. All right, it's time now for Waiver Wire presented by KFC. These are some notable free agents that are available in over 50% of
Khalil Herbert is not available.
Maybe not in your league, but Taylor Heineke, Devontae Booker, Khalil Herbert, Kadarius Toney, Tim Patrick, Ricky Seals-Jones, Hunter Henry at the tight end position. But we all love heroes. We all need them. So who is a waiver wire hero that'll coast fantasy managers into fantasy golds and victory?
Well, I think a lot of people were overlooking Jerick McKinnon coming into this week. Like everybody wanted to go for Darrell Henderson, which is fine. I get that, but I still believe that with this game, they're going to throw the ball an awful lot. I think both these defenses have shown that they give up a lot of points. And I think that McKinnon ends up getting a sizable role as a receiver out of the backfield. And again, with so many running backs out this week, and a lot of them, coming out of seemingly nowhere, although we talked about Nick Chubb being out on Thursday on NFL Fantasy Live. It's a little humble brag. But I don't know why I'm humble bragging, because I faded Jalen Waddle today, and he scored 2 touchdowns. But
that's good.
Anytime I fade a receiver, you should start him. But I think Jerick McKinnon's my guy.
I like that call a lot, and I'm going to go with the running back as well, because like Rank, you just said, I mean, there's so many running backs that are hurt and missing the game this week, or with buys. Like, you're going to be in, there's a lot of people out there in need of running backs. I think Ramondre Stevenson is someone who is still out there in a bunch of leagues, and I think he's an upside shot worth taking if you're in need of a running back. Damian Harris left the game twice last week. He was limited at practice. He missed a practice this week as well, so he's far from 100%. And Stevenson is a big back that could be used near the goal line, and we saw in the preseason, he's got sneaky speed as well, so some breakaway runs maybe as well.
He got a lot of carries when Damian Harris went out, and I think, but I still want J.J. Taylor to be a thing, so I'll never give up on that.
Yeah, I know. You do stand quite hard for J.J. Taylor, but Stevenson, a guy that Florio, I know you've been talking about for a few weeks now, so still a good pick. Now, sadly, my waiver wire hero, Kadarius Toney, he'd be great this week, except he's not playing. He's going to be out against the Rams with an ankle injury, but I'm looking at this guy as a more long-term solve and a long-term fix. I know that the running back position, that's the one that's a little bit harder because of all those injuries, but if you need help, oh no, he is playing. He is playing. Okay, I'm getting bad information confirmation. I looked on Twitter. So he is going to play. So even more
you should have looked at our faces right here. Like, what is happening?
No, someone texted me. Was like, he's out with an ankle. He is playing. So look, now even a better
Dude, let's
thing.
blow up the
but
person
going
who said he was
against
out.
the Rams. No, I'm not going to be mean on television. He leads the NFL in yards after the catch since week 4. 21.8 fantasy points since week 4 as well. That's amongst the top 8 of fantasy wideouts. I love him. I love him even more now that it's confirmed he is playing. It's okay. I'll roast him during the commercial break. But it's time now for 15 for 15, presented by Geico. Rank, let's take a look at your must-starts at the quarterback position.
I should have put Geno Smith on there, but I certainly didn't. But we have some guys like Taylor Heineke. I don't know. I feel like whenever the fantasy community gets behind one player, then that is when it goes all astray. But Justin Herbert, obviously, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, I guess. Well, let's talk about Matthew Stafford for a moment. He's had at least 2 touchdown passes or 350 passing yards in every game this season. And even though the New York Giants have James Bradbury, and I thought they had one of the better secondaries coming into this league, they've invested a lot of picks into that secondary, but they've allowed at least 2 touchdown passes in 4 of 5 games this season. So I expect the Rams to go out there and air it out against the Giants.
I love this. Since we're talking about your must-starts at the quarterback, let's give the people what they want. Let's run through all of them. So, Florio, let's take a look at your must-start running backs this week.
Yeah, so the running back position, I'm waiting for them to pull it up on, there we go. Jonathan Taylor, you know that's my guy. I am biased, and it's a great matchup there. Joe Mixon, I mean, he surprised us last week. A great matchup here against Detroit. Darrell Henderson Jr. against the Giants. Darrell Williams on the Chiefs. Kimmy, I expect him to have a big day now with CEH out this week, and then Devontae Booker with no Saquon Barkley. But Darrell Williams is someone that I want to focus on there. I was saying earlier, I think he could play well with CEH out. CEH was averaging over 15 touches, around 15 touches per game this year. I think all of that work is going to go to Williams. I think Jerick McKinnon is still going to get some of, I think his role will now be what Williams was previously. He'll get some third down work. I think he'll be used in the passing game. But I think Williams is going to get a lot of carries, a couple of targets, and be the goal line runner for the Chiefs. And what I think is going to be a high-scoring game between these two teams.
Thank you.
I get that.
What about you? Anybody on that list that you're loving at the running back position?
I'm gonna go off the menu. I want to talk about Latavius Murray. Where's my camera? Is that my camera?
You're not giving up on Latavius Murray?
No. Why would I give up on Latavius Murray, even though he had just 6 carries on Monday night? I think that the Baltimore Ravens probably went out there and looked at some film and said the way that we're going to attack this Chargers defense is on the ground, because they've actually given up the most rushing yards per game this season. And Latavius Murray, this still has a knack for getting into the end zone. As you see right there, a rushing touchdown in 3 of 5 games this season. So I feel pretty comfortable going with Latavius in this one.
Well, and as we saw last week, Lamar Jackson for 442 yards. That was the most passing yards he's ever had in an NFL game. We're so used to him running the ball. Maybe he doesn't need to do it as much because he's throwing the ball more. So your guy, Latavius Murray, gets some love. Rank, what about your must-start wide receivers for Week 6?
Well, I got Bobby Trees in there, Keenan Allen, Brandon Cooks. Adam Thielen, I think, is probably the most interesting one for a lot of people. He is so heavily touchdown dependent, but I think that they're really going to try to take away Justin Jefferson in this contest. But let's take a moment, though, to talk about Michael Pittman Jr., because this throw right here, this is the Randy Moss play right there. Boom, just takes it,
grown man touchdown.
Still gets into the end zone.
Grown man touchdown. I like that, grown man touchdown.
And we've really wanted him to step up this year. And you know, it's been a little bit slow, but over the last couple of weeks, it's really started to present itself. He's had at least 16 fantasy points per game, or excuse me, he's averaged over 16 fantasy points per game since week 2, which is significant. Great matchup this week, so get him into your lineup.
Love it. Do you have a guy that you like? A wideout this week?
I'm going to go with one that was he on your board? He might have been. It might be off menu. Keenan Allen, though. I like Keenan Allen a lot this week. I know it's been a slow start to the year for Keenan Allen. Week 1, this would have seemed obvious, but he doesn't have a 20-point game yet this season, but he operates out of the slot there for the Chargers. Mike Williams is banged up, and the fact that he's out of the slot, Keenan Allen, is the big talking point, because the Ravens have allowed by far the most receiving yards to receivers in the slot, and they've allowed the second most touchdowns. So I think Keenan Allen's breakout game that we've been waiting for comes today.
No more Big Mike Williams, as Marcus says, or they can both be great. But a lot of us fantasy managers understand the value of Keenan Allen and want to see him more incorporated. So I hope so. Florio, you know this is my favorite position in fantasy football. I went to tight end university. Talk me through your tight end board.
It's also the worst. So if you have any of these players, I think you should be starting them this week. Tyler Higbee, I mean, the Giants have just struggled in Higbee against tight ends, and Higbee has just been a consistent part of the Rams' passing game. Hunter Henry, his volume the last couple of weeks continues to go up, and I think they'll have to throw against the Cowboys. I know you love Ricky Seals-Jones this week, Rank, so I wanted to get him there for you.
Appreciate
and Dalton Schultz, but I don't want to wait. You see what I did there? To talk about Dawson Knox.
Oh, my gosh.
Dawson Knox has just been awesome.
You weren't even alive when this show came out.
Oh, man. I was very young when Dawson's Creek was out.
Dawson.
But Dawson Knox has been great. I mean, all he does is catch a touchdown every week. And what I love is the volume continues to go up as he plays well. Not only was he just using the red zone last week, they were taking shots downfield with him. And as he continues to play well, he's earning more and more volume. So I think if you picked up Dawson Knox, just continue to ride the hot hand.
100%. I know you were chiding me for Ricky Seals-Jones.
little subtle shade.
Ricky Seals-Jones has a great matchup. Like, he was targeted 3 times in the red zone last week against the New Orleans Saints. The Kansas City Chiefs have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends this season. Again, the only thing, I'm giving you what the matchup is, but I'm also saying that anytime the fantasy community rallies around a team or one guy or whatever it is, it never works out the way that you want it to. It's like the people that are like, I just stream quarterbacks every week, and I'm like, it never works out that way. It really doesn't. Daniel Jones a couple of weeks ago against the Falcons, I fear that for the FT, but I will tell you the numbers say these are the guys to play.
Okay.
The book says to play it.
All right, well, the numbers say to play it, so I guess that must be true. There's Austin Eckler and the Chargers. Eckler, our RB1 last week, all fantasy points, but he's put up 27 of them in the 4th quarter. Quite impressive. All right, next on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico, we are sliding into some DMs and giving you our definitely must start. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Matthew Stafford, only 1 loss for the Rams. A lot of us saying that they are one of the main contenders for the NFC. But first, they're in New York, taking on the Giants. Lamar Jackson, 442 yards. I'm going to say that stat as much as I can. 442 yards on Monday Night Football. This game, the most exciting of the week, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
This is what we want to know. Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, two red-hot teams right now.
There's another game going on at 10 a.m.
Oh, which one? The Bears and the Bills.
Monday. That's why we're excited for them tomorrow.
Bears, Packers. That team. We'll get to that later, but welcome back in, everybody, to NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. You already know Florio, Rank, myself. We always say to send us your questions, and we're problem solvers, so we're going to solve them live on the air. Continue to tweet us at NFL Fantasy or ask your questions in the YouTube comments. All right, this one, first up for you. First problem to solve, Adam Rank. Josh Jacobs or Khalil Herbert, your guy.
I'm going to go with, I really do believe there's an opportunity for Khalil Herbert to make some noise here. I thought that I was very impressed with him coming out of Virginia Tech. And I think the fact that, David Montgomery is so good is the only reason he wasn't getting on the field earlier.
And they're going to be winning by so much.
Yeah, they're going to be salting away that lead.
You guys are crazy. All right, Florio, this problem for you. Who is a better wide receiver to start in a non-PPR? Dearness Johnson versus the Seahawks, Marquise Hollywood Brown versus the Chargers, or Emmanuel Sanders versus the Titans?
Ooh, Sanders has been playing great, but I like Marquise Brown there of these options. Marquise Brown is one of two receivers to score 19 fantasy points or more in 4 or 5 games. And this is a game that I think the defenses are pretty good, but the offenses are better. So I expect a lot of points there. I think he'll get a couple of shots downfield.
Like it. Rank, this next question coming back around to you. Is Tyler Lockett or Chase Edmonds a better flex this week? Edmonds is active and playing.
I'm going to say if it's a PPR league, I'm probably still going to go with Lockett. I'm not a big Edmonds guy. They give up all the he gives up all the goal line work to James Conner. I know he's been very effective in PPR leagues, even without scoring touchdowns, but I still like Tyler Lockett.
All right, last fan question. Florio, please bring us home. Do I start David Johnson or Devin Singletary in my flex?
I don't like either of these options, but I would go with Singletary there. The Titans defense has just struggled this year, and David Johnson, his usage has been so inconsistent. I think he goes Singletary.
Okay, that's a little icky
of
a conundrum there. But hey, maybe Devin Singletary will be incredible. Let's turn it to a new segment that we are calling Fantasy DMs, a.k.a. definitely must starts. Not weird messages. However, we will get out our burner phones and slide into some DMs. So, Rank, who you texting over there?
Well, I was leading off a little Chase Claypool, trying to get him into a lineup. Although my team is so good, I actually have to leave him on the bench.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I got Jamar Chase that I have to start over him. But it is looking really good for Chase Claypool. He had 24 fantasy. He's averaged 24 fantasy points per game since week 4. Seattle gives up a lot of fantasy production. They are certainly not the Seattle Seahawks of old, and really, the Steelers aren't as good at, they haven't played well defensively either. So I think that this could end up being a very high-scoring game, and I think that you want to get in and get all those wide receivers that you possibly can.
No Juju there, too.
That's 7 or 8 targets right there, just waiting to be picked up by somebody. Why not Chase Claypool?
I love that, but every time I think it's a huge Chase Claypool day, he lets me down. But he was great last week, so let's hopefully that can sustain. What about you, Florio?
I'm going with someone that I've liked all year, but I think he's finally starting to take over. Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos. He has just been the more effective runner than Melvin Gordon watching him. He's more explosive. I know they've been splitting snaps and touches, but he is the better talent at this point in their career. And the recent trend has been to let a rookie kind of come on slow and split time with the veteran. But as the season progresses, the rookie takes over and ends up being like a fantasy league winner. I think Javonte Williams is on that path, and I think it could start as soon as this week in a really good matchup against the Raiders.
There was a show one Sunday where I'm pretty sure we chose every single Bronco to talk about, including Javonte Williams. He didn't necessarily have that crazy breakout week that week, but good things in store for him. It could see Melvin Gordon getting more of a backseat, Williams getting more involvement. I'm going to talk about Emmanuel Sanders. And Florio, I know he was a name that popped up on one of those social questions, and you said, yeah, he's actually playing really well right now. He is, and now he takes on your Buffalo Bills, Florio, on Monday Night Football. Or he plays for your Buffalo Bills. He's taking on the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. And Emmanuel Sanders has been lights out. I have him in a lot of leagues kind of as a flex play, but he's become a weekly starter for me. 20 fantasy points since week 3. That's top 12 amongst wide receivers. The Titans also allowing the most points to fantasy wideouts, over 47 points allowed. So even if this could be a huge Stephon Diggs game and they want to get him more involved, Emmanuel Sanders still has plenty of volume to eat, as well as Dawson Knox. Basically, your Bills are really good. That's what I'm saying, and I enjoy Emmanuel Sanders.
And Sanders leads the league right now in end zone targets, so you love hearing that. He's got a great chance of scoring each week.
Yes, we need those end zone targets.
Yeah, he's really taken over for Gabriel Davis, who had a lot of end zone targets. Him and Dawson Knox have kind of taken away from Gabe Davis, who I really liked coming into this season.
Unfortunately from Stephon Diggs, too.
I know.
I have him in a league. I'm like, I'm panicking. But speaking of the panic, we told you about the good, but sadly, we have to get to the bad. Are you guys ready for this? I think we have a sound. Do you hear it? Do you hear it? It's the purge of my fantasy lineup. Florio, who are you freaking out about?
I'm sorry, Adam Rank, but I'm freaking out about Allen Robinson. And Allen Robinson is a player that I was super excited to draft, and I have him on a bunch of my teams. This is the first week I've kind of said, all right, if you could get away from him, you have to. And like, I'm sitting him in a league for Kadarius Toney, which I never thought I would be doing. The volume just hasn't been there. Justin Fields, I still think these two have a lot of upside if they could get clicking. It just hasn't happened so far. So until I see it, I think it's okay to get Allen Robinson out of your lineup, but I'm not dropping him or anything like that.
Right, yeah, don't drop him. I've had to like shuffle him back and forth in a couple of teams where you know, if you're really deep in some leagues, it makes a lot of sense.
No, but if you draft him as a wide receiver 1, you're like losing your mind a little bit.
It's difficult, but the Bears have been so successful running the football that it's really taken away from their passing again.
What about you? Who are you hitting the panic button on?
I'm going to say Nick Chubb is going to be that. Yep, that's my panic button guy. We talked about this on Thursday on NFL Fantasy Live before he was ruled out for the week. I had warned you. It's not necessarily the injury concerns or anything like that, but I think that the most concerning thing is this two-headed backfield with Kareem Hunt, is that Kareem Hunt was getting way too many looks near the goal line, which you would think would automatically be going to Nick Chubb, but that wasn't necessarily the case. And at some point, I think that the Browns are going to end up being very cautious with Nick Chubb over the entirety of the season. You know, the Browns have aspirations of going to the Super Bowl, which means at some point, not that they're, you know, conceding this game or anything, but they're going to be very cautious with Nick Chubb, especially if they believe in their other running backs. So to me, this is not a guy that you can rely on week in and week out. So if you can, I mean, it's too late now because people aren't going to probably want to trade for him, but I'm panicking. I got to keep him now.
I was going to say, people say, oh, it's okay. If you have Chubb or Hunt, they both could have good games. And it's like, it's okay unless you have one of them on your fantasy roster and you have Nick Chubb scoring like 12 points and Kareem Hunt goes off. Like, you don't feel good when that.
Yeah, you feel miserable.
No, not at all. That's why it's hard with these two-headed backfields because, you know, one's going to eat, and it used to be a 50-50 split. But now the scales are a little outweighed. I feel silly. You guys are talking like the big sexy name guys like Allen Robinson and Nick Chubb. I'm a little deeper, but I'm freaking out about Robbie Anderson. And we actually get a lot of questions on social media about him. And it's getting to this point in the season where I don't know if he's a guy you should even have on your roster. He's had less than 6 fantasy points a game since week 2. That's about what he's averaging. That's within the top 89, though. So that's good, Robbie Anderson. He gets away from Adam Gase. He gets in this electric offense, and you think things are going to be good. He kind of started off a little red hot, and you felt great about it. But the fantasy points just has not been there. He also has not been a top 40 fantasy wideout once this season.
Oh, my gosh.
So if you need a guy middle of the pack like Robbie Anderson, you thought you would get a good value pick here. The value's not there, so why would I continue to do things with Robbie Anderson? I'm sorry, no shade, star, but I need more from you. Coming up next on NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico, we got the guys you should not sleep on today. Sunday Sleepers is coming up next. Don't blink. There's Travis Kelce in Washington getting ready for that game against the FT. Kind of a few down weeks for Travis Kelce. Not putting up those crazy points that we would expect, but maybe he can get it back going against the FT. Boo. Adam Rank, who is that amazing man right there? Boo. Who is it? Just say his name.
Boo.
All right, well, that's Devontae Adams, and clearly Adam Rank is a homer for the Chicago Bears, so he's booing him.
Why would you think that? Just based on what I'm wearing?
I don't know. The Walter Payton jacket maybe was a good giveaway. Welcome back in, everybody, to NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. Let's take a quick at our notable actives and inactives. In case you're just tuning in the show, make sure that these guys are either in or out of your lineup. CMC, Saquon Barkley, and Kenny Golladay, they are all out. However, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Allen Robinson, Tyreek Hill, and Scary Terry McLaurin will all go this morning. Here in our later games, Kareem Hunt and Chase Edmonds expected to play alongside Melvin Gordon, Zeke, Damian Harris, and Chris Carson is out. Juju Smith-Schuster out along with Nick Chubb. All right, those are our notables, actives, and inactives. We just want to make sure you guys are set for kickoff. It's time now. For the very first time we're doing this. This is fun, guys.
Oh, my goodness.
We're doing Fantasy Jeopardy. You should know how this works, but in case you don't, you will get a clue in the form of an answer. However, you must phrase your response in the form of a question. I will try to do my best Aaron Rodgers since he was electric when he filled in for Jeopardy. So here we go. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right, first one. He is the only non-quarterback with 13-plus fantasy points in all 5 games this season. Rank?
Who is Kareem Hunt?
Who is Kareem Hunt?
Who is Chase Edmonds?
The correct answer is, I gotta find it. Who is it? Who is it? Who is Jamar Chase? Jamar Chase, 5 receiving touchdowns this season, 19.7 fantasy points per game.
Yeah, remember when people thought that he couldn't catch the ball in the preseason and what they were freaking out about with that? But I think it just, you know what? This is a cool trend that we're starting to see in the NFL. You draft a quarterback, and then the next year you draft his receiver from college. You're like, okay, here you go. We need you to go out there.
Those reports from the summer are just a little wrong.
Little off.
Yeah, remember, like, he can't catch the football. Turns out he can. All right, next one, guys. If you counted only his receiving yards, this running back would be the wide receiver 36. I'm going to do Florio.
Who is Austin Eckler?
Who is Austin Eckler? Do you have another guess?
Who is DeAndre Swift?
Correct answer is who is DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, buddy. Again, this was another player that there was a lot of consternation, you know, coming into the draft season of whether he could be a full-time running back. And anybody who, whenever we were drafting, it always seemed like he was falling for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But anybody that took a risk on him, it certainly is paying off right here. Obviously, the best player on this offense, and Dan Campbell obviously realizes, hey, maybe we should get the ball into the hand of our best player.
Love that.
Another player that the summer reports were wrong about.
Way off of
Don't read the summer reports. The next one. This wide receiver has 11 touchdowns in his last 11 games. 11 TDs, last 11 games. Yes?
Who is... This is wrong, but who is Emmanuel Sanders?
No, it's who is Marquise Hollywood Brown.
You didn't give me a chance to answer.
I was
going to say Mike Williams.
Okay, well, you would have been wrong anyway. But yes, right answer, Marquise Hollywood Brown.
He's been awesome. It's something that I don't think enough fantasy players realize is, like, I know last year I was very excited for Marquise Brown. It didn't work out early on, but late in the year and in the playoffs, this guy really broke out, and he's continuing. He is for real. Like, you can trust him moving forward.
For real Hollywood. Again, not Van Nuys like we used to call him. Entering week 6, this running back had more rush yards than 24 other teams.
Who is Derrick Henry?
Okay, that one's a little obvious. Yes, please put some respect on Derrick Henry. That's an easy one.
He's the best running back, pure runner in football, maybe in quite some time. Like, if you have him, you start him every week.
I mean.
Remember when people didn't want to draft him this year because they're like, regression. His first week wasn't necessarily great. Everybody's like, I told you, this guy regression. Don't take victory laps after 1 week.
Yeah, you're like, now look. All right, this next one, this wide receiver already has 116 fantasy points this season. He didn't reach that number until week 13 last year. Yes?
Who is Antonio Brown?
No. Who is Mike Williams?
No!
He was going to be your answer for the last question.
I know. Yeah, big BMW. What a big BM Williams, because he's the poo. I don't know. I just got to, no, I'm just saying. That was, no, nobody?
No.
Whatever. Final Jeopardy, everybody.
Final Jeopardy.
All right.
Jeopardy. This former MVP only has one game with 3+ passing touchdowns this season. Final Jeopardy. This former MVP only has one game with 3+ passing touchdowns. No peeking at each other. All right, reveal. Who is Aaron Rodgers? Probably pained you to say. Who is Aaron Rodgers? Okay.
First of all,
oh wait.
No, too late.
Oh, does that mean you win?
Yes.
No, I'm a nice game. I'm a nice game
Oh.
host. You guys both win, but technically maybe you took the cake on that one.
Yeah, the Stu Fantasy Insurance. I will just say to the producers, like, why would you make Aaron Rodgers the final Jeopardy question on a Jeopardy type thing?
Just to besmirch you, but like you
no,
said, Rick,
he was the host of Jeopardy.
It is time now for Fantasy Insurance, presented by Geico. All right, everybody, we love to brag about good sleepers who we play. So, Florio, who's a sleeper that people should sleep on no longer?
Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is someone that, like myself and others, were excited for coming into the year, and he got up to a slow start, but in the last 2 weeks, he's seen 8 targets in both games, tied or the team lead in both of those games in targets, and he scored over 13 fantasy points in both. He doesn't have the highest ceiling, but he has a reliable floor right now, and I think as he continues to play well with Jared Goff, he could even get more volume moving forward. So I would grab Amon-Ra St. Brown if he's out there.
Rank, what about you?
Well, this was real easy when I said this on Wednesday when they asked for our homework, but everybody's gone and picked up Khalil Herbert by now. But there's also some other available running backs, Jarek McKinnon, Dearness Johnson, and that's about it. Otherwise, then you're
screwed.
On to next week.
Oh, okay.
On to week 7.
Mine, a little bit of a homer pick since you did a homer pick too. It's Darrell Williams playing for the Chiefs with CEH out. He has had stat lines on both the receiving and the rushing side of the ball. I think there are going to be opportunities in that offense where Mahomes and the Chiefs need to spread it out a little bit more. So Williams should be a nifty little pick. Time for a very quick break, but next up on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico, Frank's been doing some curls for this next chat. He's not even that swole, though. We're talking Fantasy Flex starts when we come back. We will be right back.
Doing a lot.
Oh, look at him.
Why? You couldn't just let Justin have this stage?
No, just had to get a little Aaron Rodgers.
Green Bay
just
homer, producer.
Oh.
There's Keenan Allen, the guy that Florio said is going to have that big breakout game finally. Well, what do you think?
Daniel.
20-plus fantasy points for Keenan Allen today?
Oh, yeah. Book it.
Book it?
Book it.
Book it.
A lot of confidence.
Wow.
A lot of confidence with Keenan Allen from Florio. Welcome back into NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. Kimmy Checks, Adam Rank, Michael F. Florio. Please continue to tweet us and send our questions because we're answering them. And Matt O'Connor, researcher extraordinaire in the YouTube chat, ferociously typing as we speak, making sure you guys are set. Now, I said Rank's been doing some curls. Can you flex? Nothing's there, but it's time to flex it out. Our favorite Week 6 flex plays of the week. So, Mr. Swole, who's your favorite flex?
You know, I don't go to the gym or anything like that. I'm gonna go with James Conner though. How about that? We'll talk about James Conner, not about my push-up routine that I like to do. But I think that his ability to get into the end zone makes him a pretty good pick each and every week. I made this decision on Wednesday before Cliff Kingsbury was ruled out. I'm always a little bit concerned whenever there's a little bit of a coaching change, if the current play caller favors Kenyon Drake, and then maybe he'll get a couple of end zone looks, but I still think that James Conner is a pretty good option.
Yeah, I like that call there, Rank. I'm going to go with someone that we've spoken about a little bit already, Kadarius Toney. The guy's just been awesome the last couple of weeks. He's broken out. The Giants are still thin at receiver, and with Daniel Jones playing this week, I think you just ride the hot hand right now, and Kadarius Toney, they are not going to stop going to him. You get him in your lineup today.
And he is playing. Again, I'm not going to roast the person who texted me that, but Kadarius Toney is playing. I'm not saying that.
Does he or she work here?
Yes. Anyway, moving on for my favorite flex start. You're gonna hate this, but it's A.J. Dillon. I gotta give the Green Bay Packers a little bit of love. Same with A.J. Dillon as well. His fantasy points have increased in 3 straight games.
Thankfully, somebody's giving the Packers some
12 plus touches and 75 plus total yards in 2 straight. I think they're gonna spread the ball a little bit more. It can't just be the main guy, Aaron Jones, running all the time. A.J. Dillon getting some more involvement as well. I'm flexing him in a league. Feeling pretty darn confident about it. It's time now for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm going to start with you, Florio. I know you love this guy, so I'm gonna give you some Cowboy love here. Ezekiel Elliott has gotten going, right? He's cracked the century mark 2 weeks in a row, so does that mean he does it yet again today against the New England Patriots? I think so. I think Ezekiel Elliott is going to have a big game today. He's been playing great as of late, like you said, Kimmy, but also this is a game, like, no offense to the Patriots offense, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with the Cowboys. And if they're not, I think the Cowboys are going to run a lot of Zeke in the second half. We know they like to grind out the clock with him.
As Adam Page would say, Cowboy stuff.
There you go.
Cowboys things. DraftKings has Zeke projected to have right around 76.5 rush yards. So what is your fantasy projection for him, Florio?
I think he's going to sit around 21 fantasy points, and that is, me giving credit to the Patriots defense, but this guy's been over 20 in 3 straight. I think he makes it 4 in a row. 4 in a row. I love that. Zeke managers eaten this season. Rank. I'm so sorry to do this to you. I'm really sorry to do this to you. But Davante Adams, he kind of sort of owns your Chicago Bears.
Does he?
8 touchdowns in his last 10 games. I think that's a good stat line. He scored at least 1 TD the last 3 times he's played the Bears. So does that mean he gets in the end zone today?
I mean, it doesn't mean that it gets into the end zone today. That's the past. We're playing on what's going to happen today.
Okay.
And I think that Jalen Waddle could shut him down. But let's be realistic about this. Davante Adams is the only player that Aaron Rodgers throws to. And I know that Aaron Rodgers likes to bellyache about the team never making moves. It's like, well, you only play with one player. Like, it's with my kids. They want new toys. It's like, but you only play with this. Why would I add anything else to clutter the living room?
Do they play with the box over the toy?
No. I get rid of the boxes. But I do think that, again, in a game where the Packers will probably be playing from behind, probably have a lot of opportunity to throw the football.
The Packers playing from behind.
Because they're losing.
The Bears. Yep, I got it. DraftKings is projecting Davante Adams to have right around 95.5 receiving yards. So what's your fantasy projection, non-biased?
I think he would get into triple digits.
You think?
If Aaron Rodgers throws for 280, Adams is good for about 240.
So how many fantasy points is that? Just
a lot of points. 8, 16, 25.
At least 25 fantasy points.
That's off yards alone.
Yeah, just on the yards alone. He's not getting the end zone.
Okay, I don't know about that. We'll have to
when he walks out
shakes
after
out.
the game as a loser.
Okay.
He'll walk through the end zone.
That was
probably.
Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use the promo code Who Scores to claim your deposit bonus up to $1,000. You must be 21 or older. First, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only as well. New customers. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Next up on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico, we're breaking out the crystal football and predicting our fantasy top scores and final list of must-starts.
Urban Meyer. That's Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert. Love Justin Herbert, not Urban Meyer. Thank you so much, Adam Rank. This is our game of the week, and that's why we're going to show as much of this game as possible. There are going to be so many fantasy points scored between Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert. Lamar Jackson, who you now see on the screen, I'm like at least probably 5 million fantasy points from these guys. At least. Just something subtle here. So excited. Welcome back into NFL Fantasy Game Day. Time for 15 for 15 minutes for kickoff, presented by Geico. A quick look at our morning games, our actives and inactives. CMC out, Saquon Barkley out, Kenny Galladay out as well. Oh my goodness.
Our friends in Duval County.
Duval County, they just got their first win. That's what we just saw on this board over here. 23-20, Jacksonville gets the win. Urban Meyer shook in disbelief. And everybody freaking out and happy. Welcome back in to NFL Fantasy
He's not getting fired.
Presented by
Pat
Geico.
Hayden has to fly back for nothing.
Getting you ready for your Week 6 lineup. Kimmy Checks, Adam Rank, Michael F. Florio. We said to tweet questions, so here they are. Let's answer some more fan questions before kickoff gets going. Florio, I'm going to start this one off with you. Let's see what the question is. Fly it in, people. All right, maybe not. We'll get to the questions in a little. Actually, here they are. All right. Dawson Knox over Mark Andrews for starting tight end. Is Knox just now a guaranteed starter? Ooh.
Look, Dawson Knox was awesome last week, and he still didn't put up like half the points that Mark Andrews did when he went off for over 40. So I think both. I have a league where I'm starting both of these two, but it's still Mark Andrews over Dawson Knox.
I'm like, can you put them in a flex, please? Both those guys really good. Sure. Rank, Woods or Pittman?
Ooh,
Talked about Pittman earlier.
I'm gonna go Bobby Trees.
Bobby Trees. All right, Florio, back around to you. Cortland Sutton or Julio Jones?
I'm going to go with Cortland Sutton there. It's just a tough matchup for Julio Jones against the Bills, and it's his first game back off of a hamstring, so I'll play it safe and go with the other guy.
Smart one. You guys are very, very safe. Rank, last one.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz.
Kirk Cousins, I guess. This is a tough matchup. Carolina's no joke defensively, but I just don't trust the Carson.
All right, you know the air horns. That means it is time for Sunday Fun Day. Let's predict our top scorer of the day. Rank, who's it going to be?
I'm going to go with, I'm going to go a little crazy. I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb.
Ooh.
That's right. That's what I'm going to do. I think that he's got a pretty good opportunity going up against the New England Patriots, who allowed 22 fantasy points, actually 21.9 fantasy points to Chris Moore in Week 5. He leads the team with close to 8 targets per game. I think it's just a matter of time before he really has one of those breakout games. And I can see Dak and this Cowboys team going up to Foxborough and just having a day.
Yeah.
Florio, top scorer for you. I know you like the CeeDee Lamb pick.
I love CeeDee Lamb. And, Kimmy, you're going to love my pick because I'm going with Patrick Mahomes.
Thank you. Finally, you say something kind about my Chiefs.
Mahomes is awesome. It's the Chiefs' defense that I like to pick on for fantasy. But Washington has allowed the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks, only behind the Chiefs. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And I think with them coming off of the loss that they suffered last week, Mahomes is going to be a little bit angry. He's going to take some shots downfield. I think a big day is in store for him and the Chiefs.
Angry Patrick Mahomes makes me incredibly happy. So I agree that Patrick Mahomes will be red hot. My top scorer for this week, it's going to be Najee Harris taking on the Seattle Seahawks, because as Rank has pointed out and mentioned, this defense is Legion of Boom only by name, not actually reality, because they're not doing so hot, allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs this season. Najee Harris, top 5 fantasy RB, averaging just over 19 fantasy points a game. All right, quarterback, a must-start. Rank. Give me somebody.
I'm going to go Joe Burrow, who's going up against the Detroit Lions. I think he's got a tremendous opportunity. I'm worried about this game for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this could be an upset special, but Burrow's had 2 touchdown passes in every game this season, and the Lions have allowed close to 3 offensive touchdowns per game this year.
Florio, quarterback.
Rank, what could go wrong here? I'm saying Taylor Heineke.
Oh, this will work out. No worries.
He's been playing better as of late. He scored over 20 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4, has multiple passing touchdowns in those. But what I like is he's running more. 40 rushing yards or a rushing touchdown in 3 straight games. And again, the top 2 defenses that allow the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. I think it is a high-scoring game. So I'm saying start Heineke. I have him as a top 12 option this week.
Rank's little face here. Rank doesn't necessarily love the Taylor Heineke pick because he thinks that, I don't know, maybe reverse jinx. Matthew Stafford, I love him against the Giants. Ever since joining this offense, things have been a lot better for him, and also getting Cooper Kupp involved as well. He's had 2+ passing touchdowns or 350+ passing yards in every single game played. He's currently the fantasy quarterback number 8, averaging just over 21.5 fantasy points. So things are very good for Matthew Stafford. I like this matchup, and I like the energy that is there for the Rams. Only 1 loss this season. They want to continue atop the NFC, and this is a good way to start against the against the NYCG. NYCG? Sure. NYG?
NYG?
I like that. NYG. That's what I'm going to call it. What about a must-start wideout, Adam Rank?
Why don't we go with the running backs first? And you've convinced me with the running back situation for the LA Rams. I'm going to go Darrell Henderson Jr. I think this is a pretty good opportunity for him with the possibility of this being a huge blowout for although when we say stuff like that, like watch this be one of the closest games of the season. The Giants actually, they had a weird win over Seattle last year. I think they always come up at the most inopportune times. But Henderson has had at least 15 fantasy points in every game this season, and the Giants have allowed the 5th most fantasy points per game to running backs. So I think this is a good opportunity to get him into your lineup. I'm flexing him all over the place.
Yeah, Henderson has been so good this year. I'm going to go with another Darrell, just drop the L and go with Darrell Williams here. I think that, like I said, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Darrell Williams is now the lead back on one of the best offenses in football, and running back is so depleted right now. I don't understand how you couldn't start this guy this week. I have him inside my top 15 running backs.
Yes. Now you said two nice things about my Kansas City Chiefs. You're getting back in my good graces. I'm actually going to talk about a guy on the other side of the ball today. It's going to be Antonio Gibson versus my KC Chiefs. 15-plus fantasy point in 3 straight games. He's averaging just about 15 fantasy points a game this season. That's within the top 16. And as we all know, the Kansas City Chiefs defense, not so great. They're allowing all types of points.
Yeah.
I think the second most in the NFL. So Antonio Gibson should be in line to have a great game. I got so excited about our must-start wide receivers. I asked you them early, but now it's actually the time to ask you about some must-start wide receivers.
Well, I'm going to go with a kind of a controversial, but like a little off-brand pick with Adam Thielen, because he's been so touchdown dependent this year that a lot of people are fading him against the Carolina Panthers, who are one of the toughest against fantasy wide receivers. I mean, just one of the best secondaries in the NFL. But you know what? He's still getting a lot of targets. He's had at least 7 targets in 4 out of his last 5 games. Justin Jefferson was on the injury report all week, I should say, battling an ankle injury. And to me, these are the kind of games where, I don't know. I know sometimes the numbers say not to start him, but I just have a feeling. A Thielen.
You're living on a Thielen.
Living on a Thielen.
I'm going to go with Marquise Brown. I was talking about him earlier, but I think the reason why people don't consider him a must-start option yet is because of what we thought about him coming into the year. He let us down last year early on, and then we drafted him as like a wide receiver 3 or so. There's still people out there who think Lamar Jackson can't throw. Like, they didn't watch Monday Night Football clearly. But Marquise Brown is one of just 2 receivers to top 19 fantasy points in 4 games this year. He's getting a lot of volume. Like, I think if we were drafting today, you got to value him as at least around a wide receiver 1.
Easily, yeah.
I like Courtland Sutton. I know you talked about Javonte Williams earlier, Florio, but I like Courtland Sutton, especially against Las Vegas this week. His targets and his receiving yards have increased in 2 straight games. He's having 128 air yards a game this season. That's second most in the NFL. He's also running the most routes on this team, so I think this is the safest receiving option for the Broncos and a very favorable matchup. All right, gentlemen, again, my favorite position in fantasy football, tight ends. Must-start tight end that you like?
What happened to Iowa this weekend? Sorry. Anyways, listen, you know what? You've been zinging me. You've been zinging me with all the Packers stuff. So yeah, that's how we're playing now. So enjoy that while I talk about Hunter Henry. And here's my thing with Hunter Henry. Coming into this year, I really love Jonnu Smith, and at some point you just have to let it go. And you know what? You have to let it go because Hunter Henry has kind of emerged as the guy that they're going to with the New England Patriots. And if you look at the way teams attack the Dallas Cowboys, I know the Philadelphia Eagles put out kind of the blueprint a couple of weeks ago, going with a lot of 12 personnel, which I expect to see. You're so mad. I love that we haven't gone to. I'm trying to hide. I've
known Kimmy for a while. That might be the most mad I've ever seen her. That look was intimidating. I think Tyler Higbee, though, is a must-start tight end this week. He has been pretty good all year. He's a consistent part of the Rams' passing game. And the Giants have struggled against tight ends. They allowed a touchdown to a tight end every week except for last week. But Dalton Schultz dropped a wide-open pass in the end zone. So it basically is they've allowed a touchdown to a tight end in every game this year. I started Higbee over Mike Gesicki. I'm hoping he has a good game.
I'm starting Noah Fant, my guy from Iowa, regardless of any loss that we ever do. I said Courtland Sutton was running the most routes. Noah Fant is running the second most. Love him. 7 targets a game since week 4. Our fantasy lock of the week. This is a prediction that we have. It's absolutely going to happen.
Yeah.
What do you want?
I'm going to say that our friends Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson will combine for 80 fantasy points today.
Yes.
Just a plethora of points.
I've been talking this game up as a high-scoring one. I think Terry McLaurin goes for 25 or more fantasy points today. I think he catches a deep touchdown as well.
Against my horrible Chiefs defense. I'm saying that Najee Harris is going to be the top fantasy scorer of that game of the Steelers versus the Seahawks. He's incredible, and I feel like he's just going to eat all of the fantasy points. I can't believe it, but week 6 is here. It's time to get some NFL football. We hope that we've helped prepare you, but as always, we will see you next week. NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. Here it is, our game of the week. The Chargers taking the field against the Ravens. Ooh,
then there's
Giants
this game.
as well. And then there's the Giants. Not as much
excitement. There's the Giants. Wah, wah.